Okay, we're going to call this one Edward Scissorhands. So the game starts out innocent enough with the English opening. My opponent seems to go right for the checkmate on F2, which is always a little bit insulting, especially when the ratings are close. So I attack up the center. My opponent goes for the queen exchange and then supports the C7 pawn, so there'll be no checks. I try to come up on the queen side with a pawn advance, and my opponent kicks out my centralized knight. My opponent develops their knight, and I basically do the H3 advance to prevent any shenanigans on the F2 pawn, and then we're trying to gear up to castle. Now my opponent makes this move, this knight move to H5, and I see a quick tactical shot, which is basically sacrificing the knight for a pawn, which isn't really a sacrifice since it wins a free piece. So finally I castle, and now I'm trying to bring back the knight and start to develop some pawns, but my opponent beats me to it with this F7 to F5 advance. So we take, and then we do our own G2 to G4 advance, trying to kick out the bishop. Now I'm trying to support the B2 pawn with an idea to push the pawn. I could have done B2 to B4, but I decided to take the pawn, and then I do the B4 advance. My opponent checks me. I come up. My opponent moves his knight out of trouble. We push the pawn. Bishop takes back. My opponent's starting to support the, looks like doubling up the rooks on the F file. So we further support the an attack on the D5 square. My opponent doubles up on the bishop, takes, which was a miscalculation on my opponent's part because my bishop is further protected. My opponent then pushes the pawn thinking the bishop's trapped, checks me, and I start to run toward my opponent's king. Exchange off the rooks, take the free pawn. My opponent thinks that he's pinning my bishop, advance the pawn to support it. King moves out, quick check with the rook. My opponent actually moves closer to me, which is a fatal mistake because we have the Edward Scissorhands checkmate. And that's all she wrote.